everybody! Welcome to Flock Talk, episode 8. We're talking about party games. Should be a good time. So this month we're talking about party games, but first, I've got some things I want to cover before we go over to hot topics. I just wanted to say that we're not going to be talking a lot about E3 this month, even though it did happen recently. If you want to see some amazing E3 coverage, you can go over to YouTube and search for Musty Hobbit. Musty Hobbit did an amazing play-by-play of E3 with his co-host, It's a Rocket Sauce, and they had the guests P1 of the Cartridge Club and Caleb J. Ross, Boy Wonder. That guy is amazing, and they did a really good breakdown of the of all of the showcases.
Yeah, like every night they did a little Google Hangout going over all the press conferences, because they also all have very different gaming preferences and backgrounds. So it was just a really good broad perspective of what E3 had to offer this year. So you should really go find those. I mean, they're long hangouts, but they do a lot of like recaps and stuff like that. It's really good.
And maybe videos aren't your thing. If you want to read about a really good breakdown of E3, you can go over to Nintendo, her blog, and Then She Games. She did a really great write-up of E3, and we also won one of her contests recently.
Yeah, we want to thank her because we got our copy. We won a copy of Nier Automata. Automata? How do you say it? Nobody knows. No one will ever know. But we won it, so there we go.
And a giant thank you to Cartridge Bros for doing the CC mission, which was getting people to rate us on iTunes. We've never pushed that, asking people to rate us on iTunes, so they did it for us.
I think it's because none of us use iTunes. Do you use iTunes, Chris? Like, we're all Android people, so...
Now I've started using it a bit, but I previously had not used it at all.
But I've heard that the reviews really help get you noticed and bump your podcast up.
Yeah. We got a bunch of reviews, and that was really awesome.
They were all very, very nice.
If you're listening to this, rate us on iTunes. Why are you waiting for someone else to tell you to do it? Do it because we want you to do it.
And because you should want to do it.
Yeah. And only rate us if you like us. Don't, rate us out of spite.
Well, listen, if you don't like us, just keep that to yourself. Yeah. Nobody needs to know.
Why are you at episode 8 if you don't like us?
Do you guys think that there is a big contingent of people listening to us, out of hate? Hate listening?
Maybe.
Oh, what are these jerks going to talk about this week? Ah!
But they're
I hate them. Ah!
I hate this show.
They're a little gun shy, so they're writing all their angry comments, but then they're not actually posting them. Because we haven't seen any angry comments yet.
We have very reasonable angry people who listen to our show. So they type it up and then they go, that's a bit too angry. And then they press the backspace button.
And they're just like, you know what? It just felt good to get it out. I don't need to post it.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm not that angry about this.
They just need a cooling off period.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for a quick little update.
Oh, wait, I do want to say Happy Canada Day, because this comes out on Canada Day. And then if you're listening to this a little bit late, Happy Independence Day. And then maybe there's other holidays this month. But those are the ones I want to hit, because this happens to come out on our sesquicentennial.
The sesquicentennial.
Yes, Canada is 150 years old today. Happy birthday, Canada.
Happy sesquicentennial.
It's very hard to say. And did anyone know the term sesquicentennial before this year?
No.
I didn't.
No, that's nonsense. Who knows
that? I still don't know it. Now we're going to do some hot topics!
Hot topic.
Kathryn, you started playing some Final Fantasy IV for the Cartridge Club's Game of the Month.
I did, and I started it early because it's the Game of the Month for June, but I think I started it in May because I've had a feeling it was going to take me a while, and a while it did take.
So, Kathryn, just to interrupt you, what is the Cartridge Club Game of the Month? What is that for the people who may be listening to this that aren't necessarily steeped in the Cartridge Club tea?
Well done, Chris. This is important. Thank you.
This is very
no problem, guys. We tend to get lost in the tea leaves a bit. Let's pull it back. Let's pull it back. What kind of tea are we drinking?
This is Chris's secret way of saying, what the heck is the Cartridge Club Game of the Month?
I think I explicitly asked that, though. So
yeah, but you're pretending like it's for the listeners.
That's true.
But the Cartridge Club Game of the Month is just, it's kind of like, the Cartridge Club itself started as sort of like a book club, but for video games. And they have continued it on. It's evolved into so much more than that. It's very much an online community with very active members who interact on like the forums and on Twitter. And there are a lot of content creators that are part of the Cartridge Club. But the Game of the Month is just a game that they put on, that everyone plays. They kind of release a list of all the games that are going to be played that season. So you can play that game, and at the end of every month, they put together a podcast with different members of the club who have all played, and they just talk about their experience playing the game. It's a really good, especially if you're interested in the game, the podcast is great because it, goes over all these like aspects, like what did you like, what didn't you like, what did you think of the story, what did you think of the look, and all that stuff. And then just as an offshoot, they started Cartridge Club Portable, which is also going to be monthly, and it is a handheld version of the Cartridge Club Game of the Month. So this month they play Donkey Kong, and next month I think for July they're going to be playing Tetris on the DS. Both games I could not find when we were at the Tri-City Game Swap, but I will try to find a way to play at least Tetris because I love it. So that's Cartridge Club Game of the Month, and I played Final Fantasy IV. I finished it last night just because I wanted to make sure I finished it for this podcast. Woo! It's my first Final Fantasy game. Oh, thank you, Chris. I feel like such a winner. It took me a long time. I think my official game time is close to 30 hours. But my first Final Fantasy game, I played it on the Game Boy Advance. I really, really like the story. I know that there were a number of people, especially in the Cartridge Club forums, talking about like just how frustrated they are with like the grinding and total party kills, like when your whole team wipes and just losing time and stuff like that. And I also had those same frustrations, but I was compelled enough by the story. I don't know if you've ever played. Have you played Final Fantasy IV?
No, I have not.
It's a really good story. Like, I loved all the characters you meet. I haven't played that many RPGs. I played Super Mario RPG with Myles. We played through it twice. And I played Bowser's Inside Story. Was that on the DS?
Yes.
And I didn't know that it was an RPG until I was like, gosh, this is not just a few minutes of play. It's going to be a while. But I quite enjoyed them. And I think I've gotten sort of used to the type of grinding and patience that's required to play through these types of games.
Has it inspired you to play more of the Final Fantasy series?
It has. So I know that we have a friend, Josh, who loves this game. It might be his favorite game, but he's like very influenced by this game. P1 is also very influenced by this game. So it was one that I was really happy to try, right? Like, I'm glad that I started with this one just because I know that it holds a place in a lot of people's hearts, right? And I can see why. The story's great and the characters are really great. Like, I mean, I played on a Game Boy Advance, and the story and the characters are pretty fleshed out for something like that would seem kind of maybe limited by the platform itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the characters and just the things that you've been telling me about the game seem so robust, and I don't remember playing anything with that kind of a story during the Super Nintendo era of video gaming.
Yeah, the stories are, like, the characters themselves, like, they have really good, like, background stories, and, like, the things that happen to them are, like, pretty dramatic, even. And then there's also a lot of really fun humor in it as well, which I like. I don't know what the next progression is for this, right? Like, do I go for just another one of the older ones? Do I now move on to Final Fantasy VII, which I think is maybe the next one?
I think 3 is the same type of artwork,
okay,
and it's a different story, but I think those are the most closely related, 2 and 3, in terms of just style, and they're both Super Nintendo games.
Yeah, I don't know what my approach is going to be. Like, if I want more of the same, or do I want to see how Final Fantasy evolves? And I think if I do that, then I move to Final Fantasy VII.
Now,
right?
There was an option in this game where you could change the names of your characters.
Oh, yes. Right? I talk about this.
Did you use this?
All of my characters were named after Guardians of the Galaxy. And after I finished it, I saw what happens to every character, right? So like as you meet them and they do different things, I feel like if I went back and did it and I renamed them, I would, knowing how their story ends now, I would name certain characters differently.
Were there any parallels between the characters that you did name and the counterparts in the game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which character did you nail? Just the name. Don't spoil anything.
I feel like I may have nailed Drax. And I mean, clearly the protagonist I called Star-Lord, right? He started as Quill. I think we talked about this last time. He started as Quill. He evolved to Star-Lord, and that one makes the most sense because he's the star. But there were a few other ones that, like Drax, I think I got right on. I started running out of names. Does anyone know the name of Sean Gunn's character in Guardians of the Galaxy? I do now. It's Kraglin. I didn't know from watching the movies. But anyway, so that's all I'll talk about Final Fantasy IV. The Cartridge Club podcast is probably out because it comes out right at the end of the month. So probably, if it's not out yet, it'll be out momentarily. And this actually ties into our giveaway. We didn't really announce anything about what we're going to give away this month.
Yeah, we didn't do a reminder, and yet we still had the same number of entrants that we did last year, which was last month, which was our highest number of entrants so far.
Yeah, and it's partly because of that CC mission that happened. So I thought, well, I'm done with this game on Game Boy Advance, so we're just going to give it away. And we have a winner.
We do,
and that winner is...
Dun 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 dun.
Matt Bandy.
Matt Bandy.
You know, our good friend Matt Bandy. Yeah, he has been interacting with us on Twitter and in the forums and everything and asking us questions. And he won this month's giveaway.
You won, Matt. You won.
This was fair and square. He doesn't even have a podcast that we guested on or anything.
That's right. This is probably a big moment for you, so just soak it in, buddy.
So contact us, like you can direct message us on Twitter, and we will send you your copy of Final Fantasy IV.
Hope you have a Game Boy Advance.
He does. I'm sure he does. He's like super into the Cartridge Club Portable that's going on because I think he's very much a portable game player. So.
Well, I hope he doesn't already have a copy of Final Fantasy IV. Chris, you actually got a portable machine that you use to play video games now as well. Is it a Game Boy Advance?
No, but like we are just weaving this podcast together. Like it is just segue after segue is a good one. Like this is just well crafted. I hope
now
everyone's
that you said it, I don't.
I hope everyone really appreciates just how well crafted this is.
Be super impressed by us, please. Just kidding.
And then put it on iTunes.
So, well, I guess last month I bought a Nintendo Switch. To get the Switch was such a mission because I had to set up one of those websites that give you a notification when it's in stock somewhere. So I was looking at it for about a month and I kept missing when I could get it. And then finally it was in. Finally I lined up the purchase order and all of that, and I finally got it. The Switch, as a hot take, this is my hot take on the Switch. Pretty good machine. For those of you that have been living under a rock, the Nintendo Switch allows you to use it as both a handheld and a TV traditional kind of console. The switch between the console and the handheld is so intuitive, so easy, that it's very well designed, I think, from that perspective. There were some issues that people were having with the controllers at the beginning. I haven't experienced any of that. There hasn't been one glitchy issue, one scratch issue.
I think that's probably a bit of the benefit of having waited, right? Like, I think we were talking to someone, I think it's already on its, like, third generation.
Oh, okay.
And so maybe you got it after they fixed a lot of those issues, which I think is I mean, we definitely need day one buyers, and I appreciate them. I was one for the PlayStation 2, which is ridiculous because that first generation PS2 was garbage, but I loved it.
Yeah.
It had a lot of issues, but I think that there is a lot of benefit to waiting a little bit too, because they iron out a lot of these kinks and they can fix them for the next production runs, right? So
it showed a lot of willpower on your part, because the Switch launched with a game that you really wanted to play, which is 1-2 Switch.
It's true. I was dying for it. I was like, that game. I think that game is going to be the game of the year. What I really like about it is that you can, because we only have one big TV. My wife doesn't necessarily want to watch me play video games, but I can sit on the couch and play the same game that I can play on the TV, which is something about, say, PS4 gaming. I don't necessarily get a ton of time to engage with long narratives in the PS4 because I have to share a TV. So I really like that I can just pick it up, do that while she does something else. For the most part, really like it. The only con right now is obviously the game selection. There's not a ton of games I'm super interested in, although there is one particular game that I have been playing, grinding out, and is fantastic. But I'll talk about that once I've done it, I think. But otherwise, the Switch so far has been a really good platform. I've really enjoyed the actual style of the Switch. I've enjoyed switching between the controllers. The controller is really cool. I like it. I haven't got one of those pro controllers because it's expensive. Listen, the whole thing is expensive. The whole thing.
Yeah, it's an expensive endeavor.
To basically play one game at this point is expensive. So if you're still on the fence, hold off because it'll come down in price at some point. But really, I don't know that it's going to come down in price that much over the next year. I think it basically stays where it's at.
I think the most you might get is a bundle.
Like how well it's selling, there's no way. Why would they discount this?
They can't keep them on the shelves. Like why?
My understanding is that Best Buy, they're doing way better than they did last year because of Switch sales.
And also for you, like you had like a change in work where you were no longer driving to work and you're now commuting. And we've talked to you about this, and that's the part that you like. That's the really part I like the most. Sold it for you.
I'm just glossing over the best part. Is that I have a 45-minute commute on the subway in Toronto, and I have been playing every morning, every night, the Switch on the subway. I find a seat that's a little bit out of the way so that I don't have to get up and give my seat to somebody else.
That's no small feat in Toronto, getting a seat during commuting hours.
Or a standing spot right next to the doors that don't open.
Yeah.
I used to have to commute to my job, but now I moved and I'm only a 10-minute walk. And the only thing I miss, like I certainly don't miss commuting and being squished on the subway, but I do miss that little bit of time that you have. Like I just don't play that many games anymore because I don't have that little bit of time that you have every day, and it's every day that you have it, right? So yeah, and it's great that you can just kind of go in and out with your Switch, right? Like you have that option to play it on the big screen as you go. You can even do you ever play with it propped up on the table?
I have not played with it propped up on the table because I've always found that I'm fine with the side controllers.
Yeah, you'd rather be holding it.
Yeah, I think the only way you'd play propped up on the table is if you're playing a 2-player game and you're not around a TV.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
The only other thing I don't like about it is that they put the power input on the bottom. I'm not entirely sure where else you would put it, on the top maybe, but
most do. Most put them on the top. I don't know why they would.
Except with how
3DS is on the bottom as well, right?
No, it's on the side. It's on the side.
It's got the little power button on the front, below.
Yeah, but it's on the face of the.
Yeah, it's on the face.
It's not on the edge. It's on the face. So
I think intuitively it would have been hard without instructions to switch from the handheld to the TV if the power system was on the top. It's just a whole thing. I get why they did it, but it makes that whole stand-up ability hard.
Is the power button a push button or is it a switch, like a sliding switch?
Power button is a push button at the top. Okay, so I'm playing, right? And it's my stop, so I just press the power button and I put it away. Then I take it out again. I press the power button, press A button 3 times, and then it's right back to where I was.
Oh, it's like a sleep function.
Yeah, about like 3 seconds later. There's no startup time. It's instantaneous startup. Exactly where you left off. You could have left off in like the middle of a loading screen and it'll basically just prop up after the loading screen.
Okay.
That's awesome.
It's something else.
All
it's
right,
a nice piece of hardware.
Let's just go get one.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I gotta get one for the Mario Rabbids game. I gotta get one. I think that game looks amazing.
Yeah, Myles is really excited about it. I know a lot of people are like, whatever. It's like tactical, whatever, strategy. But Myles was watching it. He's like, that game looks like a lot of fun. I don't know. We will, if we get a Switch, or when we get a Switch, we will definitely be getting that game. And so we will report on it or play it.
And
on the
Odyssey
channel.
as well. Those are the games that are going to sell us a Switch. And before I get to my hot topic, I just want to mention really quickly, since we're talking about E3 games, you guys see that new Far Cry 5? It's crazy. They actually made a game about what it would be like if Chris went to a small town.
Oh, yeah. Myles just really wanted to get that joke in.
Hey, what's happening around here? What's going on?
We should get organized. I should organize you people. Just follow me. Start by cutting the heads off some birds.
The birds in this town have too many heads. Off with their heads.
Okay, so it was my birthday on June 6th, and I wanted to go to the Tilt Arcade, which is in Toronto. It is a pinball bar. So they sell drinks. They have pinball games. They actually have a bunch of video game machines, and it was a pretty good time.
It was super fun, and what's really amazing about that place, your birthday happened to fall on a Tuesday, and Tuesday is their like cheap day, and it was $2 play all you can. I was like, wow, that's crazy. How do they get away with it? But on their most expensive night, it is only $6 play all you can. Oh. So I'm not sure how long Tilt will be around for people to enjoy with those prices.
It was pretty packed with people drinking. So
on a Tuesday,
super fun.
Yeah,
we went like right at open, and there were hardly any people, so you get your pick of games, and it was a lot of fun. And you were there.
Yeah. So just as a description, it's a medium-sized bar, and all of the walls are covered in pinball machines and old arcade games. And you just go up to them and play them for free, because that's what the $2 entry fee gets you.
What was your favorite game that you played?
The favorite game that I played was this Galaxy pinball game. I know my wife really liked the X-Files pinball game, and she was getting free plays. And every time someone gets a free play, the machine knocks, a loud knock that everyone in the place can hear. And so there were people all around being like, free play! And there's Nina, she's just killing it on the pinball machine.
She's a pinball wizard.
She was pinball wizard, and everyone else around her just fiddling about with the pinball machines.
She was in wizard mode.
Yeah,
getting
she was.
Free plays, extra balls. They also had a little area where you could play Super Mario Brothers 3 on the original Nintendo. They had a Mario Kart area. They had skee ball, which was kind of interesting. But have you ever played skee ball for no tickets? What's that about? I'd never do that.
It's less compelling. It's really just the motions at that point, and then you might as well be bowling.
It's sad bowling at that point.
The food was really good. It was like hot dogs and
it was corn dogs. It was like being on what's that place called, where they have the little boardwalk, Coney Island. It was like being on Coney Island with the old arcade, the penny arcades, and the corn dogs.
Corn dog is actually on Myles's list of things to talk about.
I had actually been to a place very much like this, and when we went to Brooklyn, and it was like a bigger place, but also the same idea, arcade games everywhere. There was one or two places like this already in Toronto, but not to this kind of scale and size, so hopefully it attracts a decent group of people that keep it going, and we can have something nice in Toronto like this. That's kind of sets us apart.
And you would think when they had like such a low entry fee to get in, I was like, oh, I'm sure the drinks and food are going to be super expensive to make up for it. And it was not the case.
Not the case.
Beer was about the same price that you would get at any other bar in Toronto. And then the snacks were because it's just snacky food, it was not pricey. And that's exactly what you don't want to have to go away from the games for too long, right? So you just want a corn dog that you can eat in 5 minutes. You should probably take 10 minutes to eat a corn dog, but you could do it in 5.
No. Listen, who cares about the heartburn and the indigestion? Just go for it. Eat it as fast as you can. We're all getting older. It's okay. You'll have Tums. Take a Tums.
And the pinball machines also had drink holders.
Yeah.
On the sides. Which is super cool.
Genius.
It's just designed for you to have the best time of your life. And then we had so my favorite game, which Myles was also going to bring up, was it's not an arcade game. It wasn't anything like that. It's called Ice Cold Beer, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I just sat down and was like, I don't even understand what this game is.
How do you explain it even?
It is just a flat vertical board. So you're just staring at a flat board that has a whole bunch of holes in it. It's made to look like the bubbles in a beer, like a pint of beer. And some of those bubbles are numbered and they light up in order. So the number 1 will light up, and that's how you know, okay, I got to get the ball into that hole. It's very simple mechanics. It's just a bar at the bottom, and it's controlled left side with one joystick, the right side with another, and it's just a tilting game. You have a little ball bearing falls onto it, and you got to push it up slowly so that the bar moves up and falls into that number 1 hole. Sounds super simple, right? It is not super simple. That game was really hard. It required a lot of patience, a lot of dexterity, a lot of finessing.
We were watching people play this, and they were getting to 3. You'd get to the third one.
You felt like a rock star too.
And those people that had never played it, they were like, oh, I did so well. And then, secret, super under the radar style, this one guy comes up, sits down for 10 minutes and just gets it all the way to the 15th one. He's gathered a group of people around him. He doesn't care. It's not phasing him at all. He is going through the hardest thing that you can possibly do on this machine, and then he finally gets it to the last one, and we're all like, oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. He flaked out on the last one.
You know what? There were a lot of people watching him.
He's been there every Tuesday since opening. And also, Chris, you got to meet some other YouTubers and podcasters. You met Pam from Cannot Be Tamed.
Yes.
And you met Derek from The Two Dorks.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really nice that they came out. Pam and Will came out, and Derek, his cousin Justin, right? He came in. They came in all the way from it was a couple hours to get here.
And hey, I had a friend that came in from Amsterdam for this thing.
Well, he may have just happened to be in town.
He had just finished working on Horizon Zero Dawn and then swung by.
Oh, we got, I didn't talk to him, but Myles he was like, oh, he's going to be there. He's like, I'm going to grill him all about Horizon Zero Dawn because I want to know everything about that game and how he got involved and stuff. So, yeah, he works for Sony in Amsterdam. And
apparently, he had a lot to do with the combat in Horizon Zero Dawn. So if you like the combat, that was my friend I grew up with, played Magic with. All right, so we're going to go over to the main topic, which is party games.
Let's have a party.
So our main topic today is party games. That obviously means Mario Party, right? Everybody likes Mario Party?
That's the only party game that exists.
Party's in its name. It's got to be the best one, right, Chris?
I really dislike Mario Party. I think it's a terrible time. I've never had fun playing it.
Now, the real issue with Mario Party, I know it has moments that are fun, and those are the mini-games. A lot of the mini-games are pretty reasonable. The issue is that so much of the game is a board game.
Ugh.
And a bad board game.
Terrible. It's garbage.
It's a lot of dice rolling. It's I don't need to see an animation of me rolling, oh, I got a 4, and then seeing the animation of my person moving 4 and what that means for me and stuff. And it's very funny that Chris says that he does not like Mario Party because probably the most fun we've ever had playing Mario Party is with Chris because at least you're playing with Chris and he's fun.
So you can imagine what I felt like.
Oh yeah, we are wet blankets. Sorry.
They just sit there. They're like, we love Mario Party. And I'm like, oh, Mario Party again.
I was like, is there a mode to turn off the mini games? So we can just roll the dice.
I love the animations of the movement.
My favorite part is it's Candyland, and then at the end, nothing mattered because the stars just switch for no reason.
That really sounded like it should have been said in a French accent. You move the pieces, and life is meaningless.
But guys, there are 10 of these games. There are 10 Mario
There's
Parties.
more than 10.
Guys.
Maybe there's more. Oh yeah, I have Island Party or whatever that one is on the DS. And a party game on the DS, I've never even tried it because I don't have DS friends. I don't know. I feel like there are other party games out there. Why do you pick Mario Party? There's got to be someone out there who loves Mario Party. Please tell us what you love about it because it's maybe fun for 15 minutes.
It's probably the case that you can play it with kids and kids really dig it. Right? That's probably the answer. So you don't even have to tell us what the answer is, guys.
Yeah, don't tell
we
us.
Already know.
I disagree because I think the worst part, another worst part of Mario Party is the fact that it's so long. It's so long. Even the shortest game is so long.
Yeah.
And it just takes way too long to play a single game of this.
Guys, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way.
So Nintendo, I feel like, is maybe the best platform for multiplayer games, like when you're in a large group. At least, historically it has been, maybe. But other systems, like, we love Fusion Frenzy. And that's a Microsoft game. And it's like one of the only Microsoft games that we got an Xbox and we're like, well, the only game we need for it is Fusion Frenzy because we love that party game. That multiplayer game in a group setting is just super, super fun. The games are like, and I think that's part of it. There's very little in between stuff. It's just like game, what's your score? Game, what's your score? Game, right? Like,
yep. Like, I mean, Fusion Frenzy is an interesting one because it's a lot of mini games, and then based on your placement in the mini game, you get stars. Then you can wager any number of stars when you get to, like, say, the 10th game that can be available in a kind of giant Smash Brothers-like game at the end. And it's super simple, straightforward, easy to learn. It feels like you're physically interacting with your friends because all of the games involve you trying to best them.
We would say, though, that the best kind of party games are the games that you can play with people actively in the room. Like, you gather 4 or 5 people into the room and you all play the game together and it's easy for everyone to pick up. Like, this is basically the components of a good party game, right? Like, we can transition from talking to each other to playing this game and still have fun without the person who really likes to talk to somebody, like, losing out. Like, they still get to be engaged with a simple game. That kind of idea, right?
Yeah, I think these games, like, every system tried, right, to have a Mario Party-like game. So PlayStation had Crash Bash or whatever,
which is also better than Mario Party.
Yeah, but it's all very similar, like just floor player, whatever. And then trivia is another kind of good segue, right? Like trivia, I feel like is a really good party setting because maybe even if it's only 4 players, you know, anyone in the room can still play along, that sort of thing. And the trivia game that we've played with you a lot and that we think is probably one of the best evolutions of a party game is Jackbox, right? Like the Jackbox trivia games. We have a lot of fun playing them and it gets really competitive with trivia and stuff like that. But it's also just fun. Like Jackbox also doesn't just take your regular question and answer trivia format. It's like they're punny and there's a lot of like humor to it. And
I think that another really good segue into it is that when you look at classic video game systems, it started with 1 controller and then 2 controllers so that you could play with a friend, right? And that co-op or versus experience made it more fun. And then when the N64 came out with 4 controller ports, then all of a sudden it was like all 4 of us can play the same game.
Sure.
I remember how much my mind was blown when somebody brought out the extension cable for I didn't see the Nintendo or Super Nintendo one, but for the PlayStation, where they had that 4 extra slots, and you could start playing 4-player games or sports games together with a bigger group of people. Or for me personally, wrestling games were like the best when you had a full group of 4. And now with Jackbox and trivia, they said, you know what? Forget about how many controllers can go with a system. Everybody has a controller in your pocket, and that's your smartphone.
So for those of you that don't know, the Jackbox Party Box kind of games started on the PS3, have now come to the PS4. They're about $20 for each pack. Each pack usually comes with about 5 games. The games are all very different, but everyone uses their phone. Everyone gets a little code, and you use your web browser to play the game. The phone connects wirelessly to the website. The website transfers the information to your PS4 in a magical way that the world works now.
And I don't even care how the technology works.
Who cares?
I just care that it's fun, right? My phone is doing something with my PlayStation 4, and I don't care.
And I don't care if Google gets all my data or what.
I just want to win.
They're finding out all the things that you say on your phone, all the way you answer questions, and they're just targeting you with nice ads. Just nice ads. And hopefully you don't type anything in about, like, looking for a car, because then all you'll get for a month is, like, car ads. But anyway, Jackbox Party Box has been really fun, has been a great way to, like, engage everyone at the party, because you can, like, jump in. People can, like, jump in with their phones or go back to the bigger party, whatever it is. You can have it on in the corner There's so many different games that there's something there for everyone. Just straight trivia, straight creativity.
Yeah, I think it's also like it's very simple, right? Like,
yeah,
like there's a trivia game that's literally just truth or lie. They put a statement, and you just have to say if it's a fact or if it's a lie, right? And that's a very, very simple thing to do. It's a bit of a fastest finger kind of thing. Like you get bonus points if you're the first one to answer, but it's a very simple way. Like even if you're like, oh, I'm really bad at trivia, it doesn't matter. You have a 50-50 chance of getting it right, and like everyone can just sort of join in, and like they do a really good job of putting really interesting facts that everything seems like it could be true. Right? Like they're so bizarre because everything is so bizarre that anything can be true in that game. So it actually, it's you learn a lot of like really weird, bizarre things.
It's right? Kind of the evolution of those of that series of games You Don't Know Jack, which which if you had a variety of PS3 controllers when it was out on the PS3, you could play with multiple people, etc. But this just everyone's got a phone, everyone can play. We've done away with the need to have $100 controller. Instead, everyone's got their $800 phones on them, and we can play it with that.
Yeah, and like the You Don't Know Jack like the format of the game was always the same, right? And it was, your 4 buttons that multiple choice answers, essentially. Most games were like that. Whereas now that they've incorporated the use of the telephone, like your cell phone, they have, like you said, creative things where it's like Pictionary. They give you something to draw, and you have to
try
to draw it as best as you can. And have you ever tried drawing on your phone with your finger? It is very hard. So all the pictures stink. It doesn't matter if you're a really good artist. Your picture's going to stink because you're using a tiny little phone. But it just is another way to engage people, right?
And, because of this Jackbox and the way that they've utilized everyone's smartphone, another game came out shortly after called Use Your Words. And it uses a lot of public domain movies as clips, and then they ask you to write the subtitles in, or they'll have like a weird picture on a paper and it says you write the headline, and it becomes kind of like Apples to Apples or Cards Against Humanity or something like that, where everyone picks the funniest answer.
Yeah, you're voting for the best one. So the challenge is against everyone else to be funnier than everyone else. And like actually Retro Pixel, who's part of the Cartridge Club, I think they gave him an advanced copy to stream it live on Twitch, and that was great because he would stream it and you could play from home. Like you don't even need to be in the same room playing together, right? So there's a little bit issue with lag, so you have to kind of wait till everyone gets in the game. But like, how amazing is that to be able to just play with some random person who's streaming on the internet, right? Well, maybe you don't want to play with that person, but you could just set up rooms, right? And just say, okay, well, I'll broadcast this game and you can join in from wherever you are.
One of the things about Cards Against Humanity, which I think this game kind of fixes, is that Cards Against Humanity, runs out of the funny really quickly. After 1 or 2 playthroughs, you've seen most of the cards.
Yes.
There's a ton of creativity in terms of how you put the cards together, but the big laughs are all gone. Cards Against Humanity has a very specific kind of humor style that does not fit with everyone's. And some people end up playing that game and just really dislike it for a variety of reasons.
And a variety of very reasonable reasons.
Oh, sure, 100%. It's a moderately uninviting game for a lot of people. This game allows you, with your friends who are attuned to each other, to be funny in a way that doesn't upset anybody, or maybe you want to upset all your friends, but you're not going to get invited to the next one.
So that was Use Your Words. But they've gone further, actually, and PlayStation kind of shadow dropped something during E3.
Oh, if you've not heard about this,
I have not. This is new for me.
It's pretty awesome.
So this happened outside of their big showcase. It happened during their pre-show, which I felt like was such a big thing that they should have put it in their main event, because they started this sub company or program called PlayLink.
Yeah.
And it uses that technology.
Okay.
And
it's all games that use the smartphone technology.
Sure.
And it really branches out the type of game you play with your phone. And I think part of the problem with E3 was that they dedicated a lot of time to their main conference on VR. And yes, absolutely, you need to showcase the games for the people who did invest in VR. But we really felt like if they had just included like a minute or two of PlayLink, that opens up your play base exponentially, right? Because everyone has a cell phone.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You know, you might not own a PlayStation 4, but you definitely know someone who owns a PlayStation 4. And so then you're suddenly opening your doors to these people who can be like, oh yeah, I want to play games with my friend who has one. I'll go to his house and now I can play these games. And like, Chris, the stuff they're doing with PlayLink, let me tell you. There's going to be some fun stuff coming out.
There's going to be some fun stuff?
So for PS Plus members, they're coming out with the first one, and it's going to be free for, I think, the first 2 weeks at least. And it's called That's You. And it all has to do with, it starts with everybody taking pictures of themselves with the phone. And then it gives you different games like which person is the most likely to do this. And then people vote on the picture. And then, you know, you get to see everybody laughs. Also, they have another one where you get a picture of one of the people, and it's like you have to draw this person as a police officer. And then so you're drawing on top of their picture as a police officer. It does a lot of games involving pictures and involving kind of like most likely to or least likely to.
It's like high school graduation type voting,
exactly.
Right? Like...
Sure.
And how well do you know your friends? You know, that sort of game. Also, I did want to say that when they brought out PlayLink, they said that they wanted a way to appeal to people who don't play video games and say, hey, this is a new thing that you can try. And I think that it is a huge seller. Like, if just say somebody comes over, they don't play video games, you know, a couple and their kids come over and you're playing like Breath of the Wild or something. It's not really inviting. It's not like you can't come in and sit down and, you know, watch people play that game, right?
Someone comes over to my house and they're like, hey, we came over, we brought you a bundt cake. Here are my children. And they got 5 kids, and I'm just sitting there playing Breath of the Wild, and I'm like, put the bundt cake on the table.
After this, I'm playing Nabunga's Ambition.
and they're like, do you have any coffee for us? I'm playing Breath of the Wild. Sit down!
Imagine if those people came over, and you were like, hey, do you guys all have cell phones? Let's all play. Now, suddenly, you're putting down your Breath of the Wild, and you're firing up just a goofy little fun game that you're playing with your cell phones.
And that angry man, who was angry before, can now play with 4-year-old children and their cell phones. And the world is a beautiful place.
And also in that dynamic, I want to say that when I go to a party with a lot of people who I don't know, I have a lot of anxiety, right? It's hard for me to just talk to random people at a party. I really don't like it. But when I go to a party and just say they have a Jackbox party game or something like that on the TV, all of a sudden I can sit down and join this activity and start laughing and getting to know the people around me without that awkward moment where I have to try to, you know, talk to them and see what they're into and start a conversation.
They're like, hi, what do you do for a living, Myles?
When you walk go pee, and then he walks away.
When you walk in a room and everyone's in tuxedos, and they're like,
top hats.
You can
Chris, why do you throw such formal parties? I don't understand.
You can play the Jackbox party with us. Or you can tell me what you do for a living.
That is like the most painful question. Like, I don't like it doesn't even matter what I do for a living. Like, I hate talking about that stuff. And then I'll just divert to the weather.
I'd much rather talk about how humid it is today.
I hate all of those situations so much.
Then go ahead, Kathryn.
No, sorry, I was going to carry on with our PlayLink conversation, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Because we didn't even hit upon the one that we got super, super excited about. It was made by the people who made Until Dawn. I don't know if you played that one. But you know, it's the horror game with the quick time events and the story choices.
Sure.
Like kind of choose your own adventure type thing. But they saw people, like, we played it actually for our channel, and these game developers noticed a trend where they were like, oh, people aren't just playing this game. They're sitting in a room with other people, and they're all collectively making these decisions because they want to collectively decide what the characters do and how they react to situations. And so they were like, what if we actually just made a game where that's how you play it? You play it with multiple people, and it's a majority rules kind of game where everyone votes on the options, and then the one with the most votes is how the character proceeds. And this game's called Hidden Agenda. Using PlayLink, everyone has a phone, and what's the story for it, Myles? You know it.
Oh, it's a horror story about a serial killer, and from what they showed us, I could tell at least there was 2 parts. One where you're making the decisions for the police who are about to bust the serial killer, and then another where you're making decisions for a reporter who is questioning the serial killer. So I think it actually might be similar to Until Dawn in that way, where you're talking to the psychiatrist.
Okay. Okay.
And it cuts back to the story and then back to the therapy.
The sessions or whatever. Yeah. Where, and there's a lot of, like, intrigue, and you don't fully understand how it all fits together. But Hidden Agenda also has, as its name suggests, every player, while they're choosing, right? Like, they're helping to choose how the story goes, also will receive personal cards on their phone that, like, kind of personal goals that will give you, I guess, somehow advantages in the game going forward. Like, maybe your votes will be worth more or something like that. We don't really know what it is, but, like, there'll be something like, if you can convince everyone to vote yes on this. But you can't be that obvious. You can't be like, everyone vote yes, because then you'll know that it's their hidden agenda, and you're just trying to get an advantage. So it looks like there's going to be a little bit of, like, role playing kind of, and, like, I feel like you would probably be pretty good at this game, and we're actually really looking forward to getting in and playing with you and your wife.
I'm looking forward to it too.
I think it would be super fun.
So that's it for us in party games. We were kind of talking a lot about trivia and the future of party games, so I'm sure we can go back to this and delve into other great 4-player games like sports games or whatever in the future. Let us know what your favorite party game is on Twitter with the hashtag FlockTalk, and you'll be entered to win a prize next month. But we still have some odds and ends to cover.
Odds and ends!
Kathryn, Chris, I finished a pretty amazing video game. It was fantastic.
What game?
I'm not going to tell you. We're going to do a special secret podcast. We're going to guest on some podcasts. I'm saving it for that.
Oh, super secret podcast guest.
When it comes out, we'll let you know on Twitter, and you'll find out what the amazing game I finished was.
It's called Everyone But Chris. I'm just kidding.
I wasn't invited.
Also, this month is GP Toronto, Grand Prix Toronto. It is a huge Magic the Gathering event.
Magic the Gathering? I thought you were out of that.
I was out, but then they bring you back in.
Are you going to play?
I'm going to play side events at GP Toronto, but I don't know if I'm 100% back in or anything like that. I just feel like I can't really miss a Grand Prix.
Yeah, and the GP Toronto is actually really fun. Like, I go and I don't play. Like, I just like being there. Like, I play a little bit, but not a lot. There's a lot to do at a GP. So.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is always, the emphasis is put on the main event, but also more frequently and more recently, they've kind of been expanding GPs to just be a fun weekend for people who like Magic. Like, this one has a bunch of artists that you can go and get signed cards, do alters on your cards. There's also going to be a few cosplay guests. Ooh. So you can get your picture taken with different planeswalkers, I'm sure. There's going to be tons of, like, side events, commander, casual play vendors that you can pick up some cards, or maybe even just sell your collection if you want to get out of the game. If you go there, you're going to meet a lot of amazing people. And if you play Magic and you show up at the event, I haven't met you or whatever, and you just want to talk about Cube or you want to talk about Magic, tell me what I've missed the last few months, please come up to me and say something and say hi and hang out, and we'll play some games.
The other thing that a lot of people don't know is you can just show up and it's free. If you don't want to play Magic, it will cost you nothing to just go to the GP and look and see what it's all about.
Where are they holding it?
Oh, that's at the Enter Center Right
near the C. It's at the CNE grounds.
Okay.
Right.
The big convention
the
hall.
Canadian National Exhibition for non-locals. You can get there by our transit.
And it's being run by Face to Face Games, and they always do a great job. Kathryn, you've been listening to a new podcast.
A new amazing podcast just started, and it is called LeVar Burton Reads. And it is, and by his own words, reading Rainbow for adults. He said that a lot of people have been asking him, like he said over the years, people are like, oh, I wish you read stories for adults. And he was like, I probably should do that. So it actually just started 2 weeks ago or something. There's only 2 episodes. He reads a short story. They're about 30 minutes long, and he does it in the way only LeVar Burton can read out loud. He talks about just loving to read out loud, and he's so good at it, and he's been doing it for 20 plus years. The first one is a short story called Kin, and I listened to the first 5 minutes. I was like, oh my god, this is going to be my new favorite podcast. It has really high production value. He reads in his those mellifluous tones, and it also has a little bit of ambient music and a little bit of sound effects, but they don't detract at all from the story itself. So the first one is Kin, the next one is called The Lighthouse Keeper, and they're both, I think, kind of sci-fi-ish, but he says that they're not always going to be sci-fi. There might be some fantasy, there might be whatever, but he says the common thing about them is they're all stories that he loves. I highly recommend it.
I mean, this is genius. I'm surprised it took them this long to get this going.
And I also have a podcast recommendation.
Oh, nice.
Look at this. Value added. So if you've ever read one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, you will be all in on Malcolm Gladwell for the most part. Malcolm Gladwell is a economist, historian, current events kind of researcher who writes these really interesting books that reframe issues in different ways. He has a podcast called Revisionist History. It is 2 seasons.
Oh.
The second season, it's in the middle of the second season. The first episode of the second season was all about golf courses, why he hates golf courses. I 100% agree with him. Not to get too political, but in any event, if you're into that kind of stuff, this is the podcast for you. About half an hour each one, so they're really bite-sized pieces. He talks about a variety of issues in North America, and it's cool. It's really well done, and have a listen.
That's great, because I like long format. Our podcast runs about an hour, but I do like to find really good, concise 30-minute ones that,
It's good.
For when you don't have the time to really invest in a full hour into something.
Well, that's great. A couple of podcasts to tide you over until August 1st, which is going to be our next podcast. Until then, thank you all so much for listening. Take care, everyone.